Hi, I'm Matt.
I'm Jon.
In this video, we're going to be talking about MindGPT, which is our large language model project. What we're doing is building a large language model to answer people's questions about mental health. And we're using two data sources to inform that model. We have NHS mental health data, and we have data from Mind. And today we'll be talking about all of the data-related aspects of the project and something called DataOps. So, Jon, can you tell us what actually is DataOps?
Yeah, sure. So the best way of thinking about it is that without data, machine learning doesn't happen. So DataOps is a little bit like MLOps. It's kind of a little brother to MLOps in the sense that it's all about the operations around data. So taking data from a raw state all the way to its state to go into a model. And the emphasis is around pipelines and constructing pipelines that do things like cleaning and validation.
So automation is a big factor in DataOps.
Yeah, automation, reproducibility, getting that consistent flow of data so you know what's happening to your data, where it's going, and whether it's passing particular tests.
So it sounds like data pipelines are a big component of DataOps. What can you tell me about the data pipelines that we've been building on MindGPT?
So we have two data pipelines built using ZenML, one to scrape the data from the two websites, and then another which prepares the data. So it's composed of several steps. So it'll load the data, clean the data, and then validate the data against some conditions that we're setting in the pipeline. And then once it's in that state, it's then ready to be put into the model.
So because we're building a large language model, that of course means we're dealing with a lot of text. Are there any particular challenges when it comes to validating text?
Yeah, so text is unstructured data. It's not like numerical data where you can fit it within ranges and standard deviations to check things. First thing that we can do is check something like the length of the text, that it's within a given range or an expected range, and then we can get a little bit more complicated or more sophisticated and look at things like an embedding space of whether a piece of text is in the same embedding space as what we would expect it to be.
Right, so this embedding space text, that kind of gives us a signal that something's changed in the basic content of the text. We don't necessarily know what, but it's a signal that we should have a look at the data more closely before retraining a model, right?
Exactly. So if we take an example, if we're scraping data from a particular web page, then we embed it and put it into an embedding space, and we repeatedly do this process, we would expect that web page to be relatively static and it would appear in the same point in space. If we then scrape it another time and it's in a completely different point in space, then something about the text of that website has changed. So it's a signal that we need to go and have a deeper look at what could be the problem.
And that's what DataOps is all about, really. It's about being able to have that visibility into what your data looks like as part of an automated process. Ultimately, you want to train your model in an automated way on data that you've gathered in an automated way, but obviously training a model on bad data is no use to anybody, so that makes sense. Okay, so what is there left to do from a data standpoint on MindGPT?
So the main component that is missing from the data portion of MindGPT is data version control. So we're constantly scraping data through testing and validating the pipelines that we're building, but we have at the moment no notion of versions of data. So we're starting to introduce that into the pipelines.
And so data versions would enable us to deal with, let's say, NHS update their website, we grab a new data set. We want to be able to distinguish between a model that's working on last week's data versus this week's data, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. It allows us to track experiments and see what the input to the model is all the way back to the actual raw data, what the state was at the point in time that we scraped it from the website.
So thanks for watching. If you want to read full details of how we're setting up our data pipeline and managing DataOps on MindGPT, then you can read the blog, which will be linked below. In that blog, you'll also find links out to the code on GitHub, and you can have a look at it yourself, follow along with us, and we're keen to hear your feedback. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.
How about that?
That was all right, wasn't it?